The body keeps the receipt. I still believe that. But a receipt is evidence. It is not a complete sentence. The body can testify. It cannot decide what a person is worth. The body records what we repeat. It reflects what we trained, what we ate, what we avoided, what we endured, and what we neglected. It does not care very much about the story we intended to tell. Over time, it responds to what we actually did. By the end of this, I want to give you a way to judge yourself. Judge a result you do not like without explaining it away, and without turning it into an indictment of your entire worth. Most people begin training because they want to change their body. They want to be stronger, leaner, healthier, faster, or simply more capable than they are now. There's nothing shameful in that. In fact, it's admirable. The body is real. Its limitations are real as well. The satisfaction of improving it is perhaps the realest of these. But somewhere along the way, the relationship can reverse. What began as an attempt to shape the body becomes an agreement to let the body shape the meaning of the person inside it. The mirror begins to decide whether the day is good. A photograph decides whether confidence is deserved. A missed lift changes the way a person speaks to himself for the rest of the week. A few pounds gained or lost become evidence not merely of progress, but of virtue, failure, superiority, or shame. This is where fitness quietly stops being a practice and becomes a court. I know because when I was younger, I allowed strength training to become exactly that. I was chasing numbers and I had tied far too much of my identity into them. I was by far not an elite athlete. I was not seriously competing. The numbers were respectable by a stretch, but they did not justify the authority I gave them. If a squat or deadlift felt weak, or perhaps a lift failed, I did not treat it as information about one session. To me, it was a judgment about myself. A failed lift could ruin the rest of my training and follow me beyond it. I became withdrawn, irritable, and unpleasant to be around, even to some close people that were training with me at the time. Instead of leaving the failed repetition on the platform, I carried it into the way I treated another person. The failed repetition lasted seconds. The verdict I built from it affected the rest of my day. That court is not entirely dishonest. The body does record something. If I repeatedly eat beyond what my goal allows me to, avoid the conditioning I claim to value, sleep carelessly, train inconsistently, and then dislike the result, the mirror has not necessarily betrayed me. It may be showing me something I do not really want to see. And quite often the person looking into that mirror knows more than the mirror itself does. He remembers the choices behind the result. He remembers which promises were kept, which were negotiated away, and which were quietly abandoned while the stated goal remained unchanged. That memory is where moral judgment enters. Physical results are not morally empty, but neither are their moral totals. They are not morally empty because they can carry evidence of our choices. Suppose I freely decide that I want to lose fat. I understand, at least broadly, what that requires of me. I build a reasonable plan, then I repeatedly eat beyond it. I skip the conditioning I had agreed to do and turn every difficult day into an exception. If the result does not arrive, the result may reveal something morally relevant. Not because body fat or the presence of it is a sin, not because one unplanned meal makes a person weak and morally bad, but because my conduct may show that appetite repeatedly overruled a commitment I freely made, and because the story I told afterward may not have been true. The moral weight does not live inside the food, the scale, or the missed session. It lives in the quality of the choice, whether the choice was honest, whether it respected the commitment freely made, whether judgment governed appetite, and whether the explanation afterward faced reality. Even the most dedicated athlete has lapses. An Olympian can remember a session that could have been better, an evening when recovery was treated carelessly, or a choice that did not serve the goal. Honest moral judgment is not a demand for acting like a robot and being mechanically perfect. It is a refusal to lie about what happened. A single deviation may be a failure of judgment. It may also be a harmless flexibility, a necessary adjustment, or the wiser choice under given circumstances. The context matters. A planned rest day is not cowardice. A meal eaten outside the plan is not automatically a betrayal. Training lightly while being ill is not a failure of courage. Severity is not the same as honesty. The point is not to prosecute every imperfect action. The point is to judge accurately whether our actions were aligned with the commitments we claim to hold. And this is why the result is not a moral total. A photograph of visible abs has no virtue stored inside it. A heavier deadlift is not courage made visible. A low body fat percentage does not prove honesty, loyalty, wisdom, or usefulness of the person carrying it. The physique may represent years of patience and restraint, but it may also have been built through vanity, unhealthy obsession, deception, PED abuse, neglect of every other duty, or unusually favorable circumstances. The result alone cannot tell us which story is true. The opposite is equally important. A person can be overweight and courageous. A person can be lean and dishonest. A person can be weak today and still possess the humility, judgment, and resolve required to become stronger. There's a huge difference between saying, "My current condition reflects choices I am not proud of," and saying, "My current condition proves I am worthless." The first may be accurate responsibility. The second grants the body or our image of it an authority it does not have. The body is an honest but extremely limited and one-dimensional witness. It can show part of what happened. It cannot interpret the whole case. Epictetus begins Enchiridion with a division that is simple enough to repeat and difficult enough we could spend a lifetime trying to understand it. Some things are up to us, others are not. Our judgments, choices, aims, and responses belong more properly to us. The body does not belong to us in the same complete way. It is somewhere in the middle. We can influence it. We can train it, feed it, rest it, expose it to stress, and build habits that improve the probability of a result. But we cannot command the exact result. I can decide what I put in my mouth. I can decide whether I follow the training plan, whether I make time for sleep, whether I adjust when the evidence demands it, and whether I tell the truth about what I have done. Yet I cannot decide precisely how quickly my body will lose fat. I cannot command a specific rate of muscle gain. I cannot order my tendon to heal by Friday. I cannot choose how strongly I respond to a particular program simply because somebody else responded well to it. In these cases, genetics retain a vote. Illness retains a vote. Injury, age, circumstance, stress, sleep quality, and chance itself retain each vote of their own. Two people can make similar efforts and receive completely different returns. The same person can follow the same principles at two stages of life and adapt differently. Yet this does not make training pointless, and it does not create a philosophical escape hatch through which every unwanted result can be blamed on circumstance and argued away. It makes the boundary much clearer. What is mine is the decision to train today, the honesty with which I assess the plan, the restraint to avoid turning appetite into a habit, the humility to change course when evidence demands it, and the way I respond when the body does not obey on my preferred schedule. The result can help me evaluate those choices, but it cannot separate them cleanly from every external influence. That requires my own judgment, and judgment can fail in both directions. Someone could use genetics, stress, or circumstance as a defense against every uncomfortable piece of evidence. Yet others use the body as a prosecutor, treating every slow result as proof of laziness or moral failure. Both positions are evasions. The first refuses responsibility for what was ours, and the second claims responsibility for what never was. The Stoic position is sometimes flattened into indifference. If the body is not fully under my control, perhaps I should stop caring. That's not the conclusion. Not fully under my control does not mean unworthy of my care. I can prefer strength to weakness, health to illness, capability to frailty, and still understand that none of those preferred conditions makes me morally complete. Care for the body without making it sovereign. The body matters because action requires an instrument. Strength itself is not a virtue. Endurance is not a virtue either. Neither is health. But each of them can expand the range of actions through which virtue becomes practical. A strong back does not make a good man. It may allow a good man to carry what needs carrying. That may mean helping an injured person move safely. It may mean carrying a sleeping child, supporting an elderly relative, doing demanding work without immediately becoming helpless, remaining independent later in life, or retaining enough physical reserve to be useful when a normal day turns into a difficult one. Most of these acts are not heroic. That is precisely why they matter. Fitness should not be justified only through fantasies of dragging strangers from burning vehicles or performing some cinematic rescue. The more common test is whether your body enlarges or narrows your ability to participate in ordinary, everyday activities. Can you help when help requires effort? Can you endure discomfort without transferring every available cost to someone else and becoming a liability? Can you keep up with the people you love? Can you remain useful to them after a long day? None of this means that illness, disability, injury, or age makes a person morally lesser. Capacity is never distributed fairly, and it is never guaranteed. The relevant question is not whether your body matches someone else's, it is whether you care honestly for the capacity that is available to you. Physical capacity does not equal character, but avoidable neglect can close doors through which character might otherwise act. This is why seeing the body as an external does not mean dismissing it. A neglected tool limits the work. A cultivated tool expands what can be done with it. The point is not to worship the instrument. The point is to keep it ready for use. There is another reason for why training matters, at least to me. It creates repeated opportunities to practice qualities that are harder to build in theory. A slow progression teaches patience. A difficult set tests courage. A planned deficit demands temperance. A failed lift offers humility. An easy session, performed when the ego wants punishment, requires judgment. A rest day, taken when the plan calls for one, can require more restraint than another reckless hour in the gym. Fitness can become a school of character because the lessons return. They are not solved once and remain solved. The same appetites, fears, excuses, and temptations appear under slightly different forms. And the trainee gets another chance to respond well, but training does not automatically improve character. The barbell, just like the body, has no moral curriculum built into the steel. A person can train for 20 years and become more vain, more brittle, more contemptuous, and more dependent on external proof. They can become disciplined in one narrow ritual while remaining dishonest everywhere else. They can learn to tolerate physical pain without learning patience, justice, or humility. Training presents the lesson. It does not guarantee that you learn it. The value of it lies in whether the qualities practiced in training begin to transfer. Does patience appear outside the gym? Does discipline survive when nobody can see the result? Does strength make you more useful or merely more impressed with yourself? Does failure make your judgment better or only make your ego louder? If fitness develops only the body, it has still produced something valuable, but it has not produced everything we often claim on its behalf. The clearest test may arrive when training is interrupted. Imagine that injury, illness, or circumstance removes your normal training for 6 months. The numbers fall, the routine changes, the body softens. The identity that once felt obvious becomes unavailable. Now ask yourself, what remains? If fitness genuinely strengthened character, the qualities practiced through it should still be usable. Patience should help you tolerate rehabilitation. Humility should allow you to accept regression without pretending it is not happening. Judgment should help you train what remains trainable. And courage should help you face uncertainty. Discipline should help you perform the smaller, less satisfying tasks that recovery and rehabilitation demands. The body may be diminished while the person becomes more skillful in using it. But if confidence, direction, self-respect, and meaning all disappear the moment performance disappears, then training may not have solved the insecurity beneath them. It may only have kept that insecurity quiet while the numbers moved in the preferred direction. The test of whether fitness strengthened your character is whether that character survives while the fitness is interrupted. The correct answer to the injury test is not that you should feel nothing. Loss matters. The frustration is real. A person is allowed to grieve capability that has been temporarily or perhaps even permanently taken away. The answer is that the virtues supposedly practiced through training should become the tools with which the loss is faced. If the lessons disappear with the body, perhaps the body developed while the person who inhabited it did not. So, what should you do when the mirror, the scale, the barbell, or the stopwatch gives you an answer you do not like? First, ask what the result honestly shows. Do not explain it away before you have even looked at it. If your repeated behavior produced part of the result, accept that part without theater and without excuses. Second, ask what you know about your choices. Did you follow the plan you freely chose? Did you act according to the goal when doing so became inconvenient? Did you make a reasonable adjustment, or did you rename avoidance as flexibility? Remain honest with yourself and tell yourself the truth. Third, separate what was yours from what was not. The choice to train may have been yours. The rate of adaptation was not. The decision to follow the diet may have been yours. The exact weekly change on the scale was not. The work of rehabilitation may be yours. The date on which the body becomes fully capable again may not be. And finally, choose the next useful action. Moral judgment should return you to better conduct. If it only produces shame, paralysis, or obsessive self-punishment, then it is no longer serving judgment. It has become another form of vanity, an endless fixation on the self. Judge the choice. Learn from the result. Correct what needs correcting. Then return to the work. None of this is an argument for training less seriously. Train the body. Make it stronger, leaner, faster, healthier, and more capable. Ask difficult things of it. Test it. Build it. Use the result as evidence. Accept responsibility where responsibility belongs. If your repeated choices produce the result you dislike, do not hide behind philosophy to avoid changing them. But do not ask the body to answer questions it is not qualified to answer. The mirror can show you whether you gained muscle. It cannot tell you whether you kept your word when keeping it has cost you something. The scale can show a change in mass. It cannot measure whether you treated another person justly. A personal record can prove that you lifted a weight. It cannot prove that you are wise. Your body is a tool through which you act. It is a witness to a part of how you have lived. It is a responsibility that deserves care from you. It is also temporary, vulnerable, and never fully obedient. So judge your conduct honestly. Learn from the evidence. Correct what needs correcting. Take pride in work that was genuinely done, but do not confuse a partial record with a total sentence. The result is evidence. Your choices are the proper subject of moral judgment. Neither is a verdict on your total worth. Train the body hard enough to expand your capacity for action. Train character deeply enough to know what that capacity is for. The body is a tool, a witness, and a responsibility, all at the same time. But it is not the final verdict.